Park City Board of Education today, June 20th at 4 p.m. We'll rise in pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get into consent, I will entertain a motion to go into close to discuss personnel.
I make a motion to go into close to discuss personnel.
Okay. I'll just say yes on the table.
Yes.
Nick, yep.
Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah.
And I agree. Okay. We will be back to
I'll entertain a motion.
We're good.
Okay.
We're not good for it.
I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda, which includes the regular session minutes of May 23rd, closed session minutes of May 4th and 23rd. Account payable registered May 18th, 22nd, 24th, 25th, 26th, May 31st, June 1st, 5th, 6th, and 8th. Textbook adoption, PBS yearly report, personnel information, PCF salary schedule, VA contract, superintendent contract, May revenues and expenditures.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, wait, is Wendy on Zoom?
Wendy, are you on? Oh, she was talking. She's not on Zoom yet. Where she's, she's.
Okay, we'll get her on. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. One abstention? Yeah, okay. So three ayes, one abstention, and one absence. We will move into monthly reports. For the PCEA, we have, oh, now I just have one. We said Mary did, right?
Yeah.
Mary Morgan is traveling, but has sent in a statement which I will read quickly and accurately. Good evening. PCEA is not able to join you all today, but we wanted to be sure to thank all board members, as well as Dr. Gilday and Dr. Sorensen for a great school year, even with record-breaking snowfall. Navigating snowstorms at 4:30 a.m. to be able to make a decision by 5:30 is no easy task. We appreciate the communication on really difficult days so that we can start spreading the word with members as early as possible. PCEA would also like to thank the board and the DO along with the negotiations team who worked long hours on a compensation agreement. Special thanks to our PCEA negotiators, committee members, Jake Joe, Mary Morgan, Matt Navy, Bill Dozian, along with board members Andrew Kaplan and Wendy Crosland, and district office administrators Jill Gilday, Dr. Sorensen, and Dr. Upton for working with us on compensation negotiations. We came back to the table with a compensation agreement that values your employees and creates a more livable wage as we all navigate the extreme rise in cost of living. Thank you to Meredith Reed, Nick Hill, and Ann Peters for also supporting the agreement and trusting all of us through this process. The support we receive consistently is so valuable and very appreciated. It is important to know that we can always come to you all to discuss positive solutions in difficult situations. We also want to acknowledge all members of the Equity Policy Committee who value equity and continue to strive for tangible change. Thank you for standing up for what is right and creating a policy that protects and supports basic human rights for all. Last but certainly not least, a huge congratulations to PCEA member and longtime educator in Park City, Laura Rude, who was selected as the state of Utah's excellent educator. Laura is our wonderful librarian at Ecker Hill, and she will go on to represent Utah and Washington, D.C. next year. Congratulations. We hope everyone has a wonderful summer and we'll see you in August. Thank you. All right. Do we have any other employee reports? No. Okay. Mike, would you like to join us with the COO report?
Since we're discussing accomplishments today, Dr. Gilday asked that I talk about the accomplishments of the operations department. So I'll brief you on that. I also had prepared the statement of construction and ops report to run through that as well. But for buildings and grounds, some of the highlights for the high school, we replaced the retractable basketball standards in the main gym, the roof deck above the front where the art students are housed, and replaced the scoreboard, the shot clock in the main gym. Middle school at Ecker, we installed a new catwalk with balcony for lighting crew safety. We replaced the fire system in Poland, skid steer at Trailside, and 2 rooftop HVAC units with high efficiency units, so we're kitchen at Farley's, and installed a wrought iron fence there. And the learning center, we replaced all the HVAC controls. And transportation, 3 buses, 2 lifts were replaced, which were quite a project. And we replaced the fire alarm system there. So some great things going on in buildings and grounds for last fiscal year. Transportation, we safely transported daily students totaling over 350,000 miles, which is nearly 14 times around the earth. And we did that safely with our children. Pretty remarkable.
It is.
Safely delivered on departmental goals despite staff shortages and extremely challenging weather conditions. I can tell you I was on the phone with Rich on a daily basis and talking him off the ledge every day, and the guy did a great job holding everything down. We reworked the core transportation routes to reduce the number of essential drivers while minimizing the impact on route times. We rebuilt both shop lifts, as I mentioned. We proactively revised the core transportation routes, anticipating manning shortfalls. We revised the train footprint to include an online CDL component, greatly shortening the time required to train PCSD bus driver. We recruited, hired, trained a third mechanic who was also checked out with his CDL. Thank God we did, because he was driving most of the time. We secured and installed a zonar tracking system, which will allow parents to know where their children's bus are, starting with FY24. We managed through multiple personnel issues, maintaining our focus on environmental safety and mission. And we maximized transportation of space-age students after cessation of COVID times. In child nutrition services, we successfully transitioned back to normal operations after 2 years of free meal services for all students. We maintained quality meal preparation and delivery despite chronic staffing shortages. We removed all polystyrene serviceware from the program, utilizing more environmentally safe products. We navigated and completed a 5-year USBE child nutrition administrative review. Worked with the architect to reduce the quote for the Ecker Hill Middle School kitchen by over $1,000, utilizing existing equipment. We implemented a web-based point of sale system, creating a high-speed interface for ops and online payments while eliminating server integration issues and downtime. And we created a contingency plan for FY24 meal delivery for schools that may be possibly impacted by construction. On the security front, we successfully responded to numerous threats with close cooperation of Park City Police Department, Summit County Sheriff's Office. Maintained all COVID protocols for recording air quality and cleanliness through the end of the school year. We vetted new ideas and standardized protocols within the highly effective security committee. We participated regularly in the USRMA, which is the Utah School Risk Management Association, formerly known as UTIC, to standardize statewide procedures and systems. We vetted, procured, installed, and trained staff on AGIX, the instant alert system. We vetted, procured, and will install Zero Eyes, the AI-assisted weapons detection system. We coordinated internal threat assessment training for multiple staff members. We shifted the organizational focus from an external focus on security to internal focus, where 80% of the issues arise from. We modified procedures to funnel Park City high school students through 3 supervisory entryways, which was one of my biggest concerns. We installed door open warning software and screeners at Park City High School to support the new procedures. We installed ballistic film in all reception areas, internal windows district-wide. We installed high definition units and software for the school's camera system. We ensured badge and phone access for Park City Police Department, Fire Department, and Summit County Sheriff's Office first responders. We reworked our first aid and CPR training program, enhancing building readiness. And we reworked our site reunification procedures and dugout kits and locations. So some really great stuff going on with my direct reports and a lot of good things going on in operations. We'll appreciate our good time and listening to that. I also have the operations regular update if you'd like that, or if not, that's fine too, along with the construction update.
Definitely the construction update.
Yeah.
Okay.
Construction in the big picture is going on very well. We've got 4 projects underway, all fully permitted, all on the timeline. We've got our 5th project, which is Parley's, which is should clear the conditional use permitting process at the end of this month. As soon as that's done, we'll start working there. But at Jeremy, for the county schools, full construction's underway. We're laying masonry walls, grouting them, putting the underground slab and mechanical, electrical, plumbing work in place. We're excavating and grading for exterior contract curbs and flat work. And we're forming and pouring foundations and footings for the new mechanical yard and excavating and prepping for the new playground pit. Ecker Hill, bid package number 1, which is a bus lot. Again, full construction's underway. We're doing deep utility work right now and relocating and new extensions for the sewer and water. The north side bus turnaround, we're installing retaining wall blocks. And the site rough demolition and finish grading, hauling off excessive soil and deep utility relocation for the new learning room extensions. Ecker Hill bid package number 2, which is the overall project, full construction's underway. The building addition area C mechanical yard is being expanded for pouring, stripping footings, forming and pouring foundation walls, site grading, preparation for geopiers, and demolishing the interior kitchen and gymnasium. Harley's Park, as I mentioned, the conditional use permit application is been submitted to the county, and we hope for approval at the end of the month, and we should begin construction there pending that approval at the end of June. Trail side, we're still reporting with the county, and we'll get that work with earnestness in the fall. City schools, the Poland is full construction underway. Again, underground slab mechanical electrical work, they call MVP, is undergoing backfilling and compacting, preparation for the concrete slab work, replacing sewer manhole area cover in the kindergarten pickup area and turnaround area. And we'll be getting site storm drainage piping and tie into the existing school and demolition. Park City High School, full construction's underway, mostly for footings and foundation walls, new utilities, relocation, connections of sewer and water, and site depth and demolition. You see that going on now. The asphalt service road and concrete curb and site components are being removed. Just a reminder, all of the construction summary is on our website. It's updated every month, and it will be there for the review and its maintenance terms. If you have any questions, I'm happy to chat offline about any of these. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Go back.
Great, so we do have a PowerPoint for our accomplishments and information for this 22-23 school year. Take a look at that. Put that up quickly. I won't go over in great detail over the operations reports or the secondary redesign because we have Lindsay and Caleb to do that. Partly just for the accomplishments. So the first slide, of course, recognizes our graduates from 2023. The really successful graduation, the rain held off, it was a lovely afternoon, perfect temperature, and we really celebrated the 398 graduates as a class. On the week earlier in the week, the students secured a variety of community and collegiate and military scholarships. And so students were recognized individually during that ceremony for their accomplishments, but really graduation is the celebration of the entire class. So this year was the first year we had Bright Futures college graduates. 7 students were recognized for their collegiate graduation. Next year, we have 25 students who will graduate college out of the Bright Futures program. And that program, again, is an embedded program in a collaboration with the Park City Education Foundation and the Bright Futures group. They have a board and they run that embedded program to give first generation students that opportunity of opening doors. And then there's mentorship for those students throughout their collegiate program. This year, we set a record with 7 National Merit Scholars, as well as 2 Presidential Scholarship finalists. 19% of our graduating class are first-gen students, with 66% of those students choosing to attend higher education. 3 students are headed to military academy assignments with the Air Force, the Air Force ROTC, and then the Naval Academy. We increased our AP participation to over 80% of our students. And then our success rate is 75%, which is consistent and a very high success rate of students reading a 3, 4, or 5, which typically in many schools will provide some college credit. We also, though, have concurrent and dual enrollments, and that's a great program because that allows you to keep those community college credits or even university credits well beyond what a test date would be. So we also know that that's a great program. Our graduates report going to 113 different colleges and universities across 35 different states, as well as going to 4 different countries this year, including Ireland and Australia and Spain. So it's very exciting. This is a live presentation. Once you see it, you'll be able to click at the senior edition of the newsletter, and that goes through many of the community scholarships and different awards and accolades that students have won this year. Every year, we celebrate our students' academics, their athletic prowess, and their activities. And we find success across these. These are just two quick examples. Another thing I was really proud of with this class is they had 31 athletes out of the spring sports who earned all state for academics and athletic participation, which is amazing. So that's a great number. Newsies, the fall musical, was nominated for 17 different awards, and they did win a few of those, which was for teacher success. We actually had Mel Moffitt recognized as Alumni of the Year. She runs the Dream Big program, which also collaborates and cooperates with Bright Futures to really ensure our kids have access to rigorous academic content vocabulary and really prepares them. So being recognized with them from her university was amazing. Jennifer Shane is our district nominee for the Utah Teacher of the Year this year. Renee Pinckney, this is the third term in a row that a Park City School District teacher will be the leader of the Utah Educator Association. Marianne Demers was recognized by PC Reed this year as the Educator of the Year, and that was a great award presentation. I appreciate being here. You heard about Laura earlier from Mary's presentation, and then Jen Ramson was also recognized as the PCCEA and the state ESP of the Year. She will also go to Washington, which is exciting. In partnership with Park City Education Foundation, each year we do the excellent educator recognitions. So each school has a teacher who's recognized, and then the Sarah and Stephen Duolny Award this year went to George Murphy. And each of the schools celebrates those exceptional educators who are representative of the district. In academics, we are headed into the third year of our 5-year academic learning strategic plan. So we are going to be acclimating to the new heights. We set the base camp the first year. We started our ascent the second year, and now we will be acclimating. So as we put forth more effort into our guaranteed viable curriculum, our human-centered focus, our multi-tiered system of supports, professional growth and development, all of that comes together and benefits the student, as well as moving towards that personalized competency-based environment. Every month this year, we talked about our Inspiring and Supporting Students Equitably committee and team who worked across several. They had 2 main goals, but they expanded as the school year went on. And they really worked on identifying and addressing barriers that prevent some students from reaching their full potential. We had an external group help us with an opportunity analysis, and we found 35 of our 11th and 12th graders that could benefit from opening up and a more rigorous course for them, a course in their interest area. So that's something we want to keep a focus on. It's a great low number for a district our size, but it's still, we want that number to be 0. We worked on developing policy and procedures to ensure that we're measuring and monitoring our equitable outcomes for all. We are working to create and maintain a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable school climate and culture, a focus on learning, and then obviously work with culture, climate, and community engagement is ongoing. We were able to secure some grant funding for an external assessment of our policies and some of our curriculum. And then we will have asynchronous training, meaning staff can access that as they can, right? So they won't have to all be in the same room at the same time, but they'll all get the same information. We do want to put forth some ideas for our measurable strategic goals, looking at where our score sets are now at the end of the year. What do we want to aspire to over those next 5 years? So by 2028, our goal is that 80% minimally of all of our English language learner or multi-language learner students will reach English language proficiency within a 5-year period. Typically, it does take about 7 years to really do a high level of academic proficiency, but we want to keep pushing towards that 80% goal. And each year we are growing in this area. So we're proud of all of the efforts of each of our schools in this arena. We all know that reading on grade level by 3rd grade is a really important milestone. So we want 100% of our students reading at grade level, but we set our target at 90% because we know there are sometimes things that prevent 100% of the students from achieving that goal. Math in 8th grade is also an important proficiency milestone. 90% is really high because as Caleb will tell you, that is a rigorous assessment. But we want to again keep really pushing our system forward. We are looking for at least 75% of our students to reach the ACT College Career Readiness benchmark in English and reading. Also a very high level, but we had actually secured the top level in writing at Treasure Mountain this year, which is exciting. And then we obviously want 100% graduation rate, and we keep inching towards that. This year we had 2 students that did not graduate on time out of the 398, but they have until October to still count within the cohort. And that's a great number. And sometimes things are again out of the student's control as to why that might have happened, why they came behind their credits. So we all work. As we do secondary redesign, like you said, I'm not going to go into detail on this because Lindsay and Caleb have a great presentation on everything the staff has done this year to try to ready us and prepare us. But basically, Johns Hopkins University will tell you, this is based on their research, that these 4 categories are really important in order to do a successful redesign. We have to have adults that are organized in teams rather than individual classrooms. So in our district, we call that a PLC, professional learning community. Our teaching and learning, our curriculum, working towards standards, really key there. Keeping students at the center of the redesign, making the learner experience, what it look and feel and sound like. Are they going to get hands-on experiences? Are they going to get a chance to go into the CTE pathways? And then what are those post-secondary pathways? So redesign will require that adults, students, and our community shift some of our views and change some of our standard practices. But we'll be talking and thinking about those throughout the next 2 years. So hopefully we'll be very well prepared by the time that happens. And then Lori, these next couple of slides I'm not going to talk about, but they are there. This is just the research on what are the influencing factors and the important pieces to have in place. And these are things, again, that the teams have been working on all year. And again, all based on evidence-based research and practice. So these are what some of these shifts, I mentioned that there might be some shifts. So organizing adults, it's in teams, not individuals. That can be a change. And that means K-12, having people work on collective efficacy. It means assessment for learning, not just of learning. So we have an ongoing process where we're providing feedback to our students. Rather than just thinking about like the ritual of memorizing timetables, we're looking at competency and attainment, and then we're looking at real-time continuous growth of our learning community. In the post-secondary pathways, it's about removing the barriers and prerequisites of sorting and ranking, and instead providing those opportunities for any student who has that interest and desire to push themselves and to really work towards their area of interest and expertise, be it art or music or math, any of the content areas, keeping relevant learning in front of students to keep them engaged and interested, and then looking to our community to have kids learn beyond our school walls and really work throughout the community. Our department have several accomplishments, and Mike went through several. We have building and grounds, we covered transportation, we talked about those great data and stats. Child nutrition services went through and navigated a great 5-year child nutrition administrative review process this year, and just got their final letter that everything appreciated the cooperation that everybody provided while they were here, and they had a good review. Security is ongoing, as you know, we can never do enough, but we have a great team that meets quarterly. We're excited, Dad, anytime you want to come. It's so great. You see 45 different, from the county, the city, all the different professionals, the fire chief, the police chief, the sheriff's department. They all come, they hear what we're doing, they share best practices, and then we set the course of those things that we're going to tackle next. As you know, from House Bill 61, we are going to have to apply now for some resources that we need to actually just received will now have to fill out the application to get that money back. To continue some of these processes and projects, and so those will continue. Human Resources is doing just a terrific job with everything from updating our policies to really looking at staff wellness and well-being and things we can do as a system to become more flexible where possible. Helped, obviously, any of you in negotiations knew how thoughtful and prepared Dr. Thornton was at every single meeting and really helped us soldier through not only the financial compensation, but all of the other language around the agreements that we follow, our workplace rules and things like that. In business services, Randy is new as of September, October, November. And, came in, we had a clean audit, so he came into a great situation, AAA bond rating by both Moody's and Fitch, financial statements, clean audit every year that we've been here, past 10 years have been clean financial audits, which is amazing. Great compliance, no findings in any of our reports. Secured $129 million in bonded funds for 6 projects that we're now deploying effectively. We've got the major general construction contracts all done, and we've implemented electronic payment processes for vendors, revised some accounting structures, which is still ongoing as Randy's learning. He's making notes and figuring out what things we can improve. In technology and assessment, I'm not going to talk too much about this either because we have Drew is going to give us a little update. There's a required report every 3 years on our acceptable use policy, so he's going to share that with us tonight. But we did implement 2-factor authentication for critical staff, and that will continue to roll out next year all the way to students. And as all of you know that have been through it, it's kind of a pain to get used to that 2-factor. Especially for little kids, if you can picture younger kids doing something like that, it's a little harder, but we will have a planned rollout for that and try to keep that as seamless as possible. Technology has been great about collecting back laptops. They re-image over the summer and then we'll push back out. They did successfully put in new filtering software and did a great job with that as well. And student services, Carolyn's here. Carolyn, do you want to talk about your accomplishments?
Sure. So equity policy is drafted, which is exciting. We just finished the secondary ALS plan. We're combining it with the elementary that will be presented to the board in August. We put some great new policies and procedures in place for our MLL students. Behavior intervention was fully implemented at the elementary schools. Adult education program has remained well above the US and the state requirements. RSTA has finished their PCSD wellness plan. We're really excited about implementing that in the fall. Outreach has helped our underprivileged students participate in community events. Outreach has also increased Latino parent participation. And the last PBS implementation has continued, and the schools are in full implementation of it.
Excellent. Our from our conferences, we actually have over 96% of our Latino parents attend, and only about 78% of our Caucasian parents attend. So we have a little gap, a little opportunity gap we need to close in that and encourage people to attend parent-teacher conferences. It's one of the great ways you can be involved as a parent in your child's education. We also, of course, identify area of focus. We love to celebrate the accomplishments and successes, but we have to talk about those things also, put those on the radar for us to keep an eye on and monitor throughout next year. So the way we look at chronic absenteeism is by number of days. So the target for all students and all staff is 95% attendance. You really don't want to miss more than that because you miss critical information and there can be a gap in your learning. So if you look at our data, we keep preschool separate as a separate program. And obviously, if kids are sick, we do want them to be home. But look at our great attendance rates in K-5. We've got this really solid, good attendance, some moderately, and again, illness can happen and appointments can happen. But I totally don't want to keep kids in school. But look at when we get to that 10 to 12.
Has this changed since COVID?
Yes. Yes, it has changed since COVID and it has not rebounded that. Yeah, but because of this, we anticipate that we will need some strategies for next year to keep educating families on why it's so important to be against.
We had 30 in the summer go for that school avoidance training, so we're excited to implement some of those strategies.
Yes, yeah, because kids were afraid during COVID, adults were afraid. So we've got to get this all back. I think you can put attendance, that's like an automatic, boost. When we show kids kind of their data, we do talk to the kids themselves about how their attendance is looking, whether they're hitting the target or not. But again, you don't want to make somebody feel bad if they've had a bout of illness, because sometimes kids do go through periods of time where all of a sudden you're strapped in the mono. You don't want to come to school, then you want them to stay home. But ideally, even in a really bad flu year, 95% and above is typical. So when we get below that, that's a cause for concern. We always want to keep an eye on our consequences as well as suspensions. We don't have detentions, but we have in and out of school suspensions there and then total consequences. So again, we want the good news when things are high like that is it means we are paying attention, we're documenting, and we're having a consequence. The bad news is, again, you need to see kids out of class for any reason. We do, even at the beginning of the year, we talked about the next slide, which is that no bully zone. Right, we really want to educate kids on healthy relationships, healthy conversations, how to get someone's attention without being negative. Because a lot of times the kids will use certain grade levels, especially will use very awe-inspiring sort of language, like when they hit 6th grade, when they hit kind of 8th, 9th grade, because they want that attention, but they don't always know what it means. And sometimes when you pause and you say, you know what that means, the kids will say, well, not really, they've heard it before. So we have to continue to educate our students and our families on that kind of thing. A lot of it's very normal developmentally to try to, shock and awe your parents or shock and awe your friends, but we got to get them beyond that and talk about the right audience and the right location to use some of these different words and phrases that they might hear in music and activity in school. As a school district, as a board of education, as a governance team, our job is really to create the conditions for student and staff success, right? That's really what we're designed to do. So a lot of our work in the fall and here at the end of the year is looking at some of the end of the year outcomes, talking about next steps, and then in the fall, of course, establishing our set goals. And of course, we have some ideas on us. But when we look at some of the data, when we look at each school is unique. So they all have a little different flavor in how they put this together because they work on these with their school community councils, but yet they all follow the same framework. So they all have the same plan that they develop and they build out, but they get to put a little nuance to it to really speak to their school community. So that's a plus in how Utah does this. And this is how Utah has the PSSA plans and the land trust plans statewide. So you would see this kind of thing in any of the public school districts, but we have set our framework to have academic success goals, staff goal, which could be, climate, culture, it could be academic strategies, instructional strategies, and then a communication piece. So that could be family engagement. But you can see here just one snapshot from Jeremy Ranch's RISE proficiency results over the past 2 years. They've had a 13% increase in their English language arts scores, an 8% increase in math, and then 6% in science. So they are tracking right where we would like them to turn. And Jeremy is recognized as one of the top elementary schools in Utah. Here at McCullen, they had a great successful year this year with students graduating out of their LEDA, their English language learning testing. That was a success story, and they want to keep up that momentum. This is our dual immersion school-wide program. It is one of only 2 school-wide Spanish programs in Utah. A point of pride this year was the great attendance at the community engagement events. They had 4 different nights this year. They had an academic focus night, they had a multicultural festival, and lots of great participation. So really proud of Angie and the school. McCollum School. Kim Howe, also a great year. She has a lot of things she wants to work on with the school and the staff. She's worked really hard to bring the staff along in setting these goals and then monitoring them. So they've done some work with professional learning community data walls. They've done a great inquiry cycle and analysis of test scores. They've done a great job of zeroing in on the different cohort growth scores, and they are also working, she's got a great newsletter that she sends out every week. And it brings in photos and different stories from each of her school classrooms. So that was great. And she's got a lot going on for next year. Some strategic movement of staff within the building where she's placing people where she really thinks they're needed to help accelerate student growth. So I'm really proud of Kim and her work. Tracy Fike was first-year principal this year at Trailside and did just an excellent job. She has, all the elementary schools are really working on a new schedule, looking at kind of cohesive planning, ways that they can share best practices among the schools, and they're really working as a great team together. So that's a big point of pride. And they're sitting, Trailside is setting some pretty high. Good strategic goals to keep them moving forward. So Tracy's done an excellent job. We've been really proud of her. Amy Jenkins and Eckerd Hill Middle School also shared their data results over the past 3 years so that you can see the beginning and end of the year across 3 different years in reading and math. So a big point of pride right now is that math score this year from beginning of the year to the end of the year. The kids did grow a significant amount. That's exciting. With Caleb, they're going to talk a little bit about their school, so I'm not going to blow it. I'm going to let Caleb tell his school story because it's a great 5-year success story. And then over at the high school, they got recognized for the work that they've done with the MTSS and PBS. The high school never had a PBS, positive behavior support program. This year they do. We saw it when we were there. But they're really going to keep bolstering that, and it has had good success this year. So we've been pretty proud of them for that. And again, all the great data that you heard earlier with our graduates are all related to the high school. Our learning center had great high rates of both participation and then success, with over 90% of the students actually did graduate. So that was a great success story. Special ed does not, Park City, our district does not have any overrepresentation of any racial or ethnic group in any disability category, which is amazing. So we are not over identifying, in other words, but we have grown in this number of students we have needed service. We have also showed that the behavior teams that were implemented a few years ago are making a difference. And some of the behaviors are declining when we consistently work as a behavior team with the teachers on what kinds of things they can do to drive down some of the negative behavior. Sean over at Jeremy Ranch did such a nice job of educating parents on what some of those causes might be and how to help support the child rather than ostracize the child when there might be poor behavior in the classroom.
Dr., do you know what the percentage of increase in this? You just said it increased. Do you know that
The use, yeah, or the number of kids, yeah, when I got here, I think we had 7%, I think we're at 11 to 14%. Kids needing something, you know. But really good reports for special ed. In the 5 years I've been here, we've had 2 due process claims and we've had no findings in any of them. So that's really positive. We've done a great job. And they've got happy otherwise we have more due process claims.
We increase funding for staff, for SPED.
We actually did.
We did this year, right?
We actually did. We have, our ESPs. We had done a boost to them, and Really low.
That's double,
Right.
like basically over COVID, it's double.
It is, and right, but again, there are the guardrails as to what qualifies you, so I mean, we are looking at data before we're qualifying a student, but it's great that when the student needs help, we're getting them that support. For CTE and computational thinking, I know Lindsay's here, so I won't talk too much about this either, because maybe some of this will come up in secondary redesign, but we've been really proud of everything that he's accomplished in this department and the time that she's returned to us from Provo School District. So she leads not only CTE, but also computational thinking, and then she's also the kind of the chairperson or the lead of our redesign team, and she'll continue to do that over the next 2 years for us. But she's launched an aviation pathway, amazing. We redesigned PC caps to be a single period instead of double period, so more kids can participate. And that has paid off with more kids participating. We're really building out these different pathways so kids can end their high school career with some certifications and endorsements. It's really quite a program. So a big success story. And then stepping into next year, we will continue our ongoing policy review and renewal. We are now at a 5-year cycle for our policy. When I got here, it was a 10-year review. We're down to a 5-year review. Some policies get reviewed more frequently than the 5 years because there's a legislative change, but it's really nice to be on this cadence through the cycle. We have a lot of policies, so as you know, there's a lot to get through. The safe inclusive schools focus is in alignment with the district vision and mission, as well as with the graduate, which is the direction the state's going, but looking at whole child development. I spoke about that activate, so we're going to look at version 2 of our instructional framework. We're going to keep refining that. We'll be in year 2 of our state required letters training, which builds literacy skills for teachers. Our science and math for our 4th, 5th grade educators, they'll be getting ongoing PD, but that new science curriculum that we adopted a couple of years ago has made a big difference. It's a great A3 based program and kids love it and they're doing really well with it. We're going to continue our data inquiry cycles, which is a way to improve and strengthen the entire academic system. This is our 3rd year of that partnership. Family and community engagement has continued to develop different strategies to ensure that good news is getting out. I saw great articles all spring, which was terrific. And we are going to be working with phase 2 of construction, obviously, the secondary realignment task force is going to keep working. We are going to be relaunching the website in July. So we'll have an updated website. And then we have some ideas for goals as a separate link here. So here we go. It's going to be a busy next year, but we are looking forward to it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The 2 students you said didn't get the credits they needed. They're on track to get them by October. Confident?
It all, I mean, we can do so much. It's one of those forced water kind of situations, right? We can do as much as we can and then bolster as much as we can and support as much as we can. But it does take the student group network, right? We do have students enrolled in secondary and summer school this year. So some of them, we got actually 100 kids secondary participating in either trying to get a head credit or making other credit. So that is happening as well. And then we have about 250, I want to say, elementary kids participating, which is good. First day of the day. So. The only other information or data I probably should provide for all of you is I did send you the survey on the future use of treasure. We had over 1,000 people participate in that survey. Very simple survey. What's your first choice of the use? What's your second choice of the use? And then do you have other ideas that maybe weren't a part of this? And we had a good number of people, parents and families. So we have a good number of community participants, which is great. And it does, people do not really know their voting districts. So it's kind of interesting. Over 530 people do not know their voting district for 4 seats, kind of fascinating. I don't know when it comes to high schools. But
They're probably ready to.
No, they
don't really talk about districts very much.
No, and it doesn't align with what school district is, so it's not, I mean, it's very.
To articulate that.
Interesting, I just found that. But the first choice for the space utilization is really, what the board's kind of thought all along is either a full demolition really, or a partial demolition with kind of reusing the gym and maybe locker room and stuff just for some field use. And second choice, also demolition. And then, or partial. That's like the community kind of knows that building has kind of got to the end of its useful life, but the gym is actually in, kind of okay shape. Athletic facilities really did not by a ton, but it did come out as the top. Community center also come out with interest. And then there are just some interesting notes and key findings you can take a look at as some other ideas and concerns where people are worried about traffic. Part of the idea with the long-term master plan is if Treasure Mountain was demolished, there might be a way to do an internal routing. This way, so that you wouldn't be on Kearns campus all the way to high school. We have to look at that with Colin, but there is that future possibility. One of the thoughts was to take down the Lincoln Center and be able to shoot a road, like a frontage road. So everything we described would be really important for how to keep the. Excellent.
What are next steps on Treasure Campus?
So it was important for me to get this report to
Yeah.
you, and then I thought maybe we could talk about it more in August or September. But that would be good because until we deplete all of our funds for the construction, we won't want to do anything because we can't use any of the bonding money for anything related to treasure. We have to make sure it's very clear that it's.
Yeah, we can start the planning, right?
Pretty
Yeah.
good at the planning. My guess is that the 25-26 year will be the first year we want to think about or implement that sort of decision. Anything I missed?
Good.
Got it. It's a lot. She's all going.
Randy, budget update.
Build this up. Just to give you an overview of what is going to happen in the budget.
What, from when she's screensaver?
It's true. It's a thought.
You should be able to share screen.
All right, so highlights for FY 24, and keep in mind during the budget hearing, we will do a final budget for FY 23, which really just contains adjustments during the year if there's additional grant, those that things, nothing significant in that. So the big topic is really the FY 24 budget. So just a couple of reminders. Most of this we've gone over in previous meetings, but some has been since our May meeting. Property taxes, new growth was 2.9%. While the state WP grew 6%, which you're assessed value grew 35.2% overall. We use the tax rate value, not the straight assessed value. So that was about a 34% increase. So whether that was a third of the people have an adjustment or they did a third of an adjustment throughout everyone, unsure what the county did there. That's what we're looking at there. Budget request follows strategic priorities outlined by the superintendent. We talked about that in a previous meeting. We obviously have the 3-year compensation agreement that was negotiated and accepted with 60% plus market for the ESP employees, 16% for the other employees, and then 6% in FY 25 and FY 26. The ESA amount we have raised to 4,200. If you remember, we started that at the 3986, which was the same as the 2008 ESA amount. I think we'll be closer to having that fully funded, plus there's directive given by the State Office of Education or State Board of Education that really needs to be 4,200. That's what legislators are planning to see. So we've raised that to 4,200 on the salary schedule. Master plan construction continues to move along. As Mike talked about, our geo debt payments are $5 million for the general obligation bond, and for the lease revenue bond, $2.8 million. The geo debt comes out of the debt service fund, which is the only thing that can be paid out of there. And then the lease revenue bond payments are coming out of capital. So the other big thing that's always no fun for us here at Park City, we just got a check for $23.6 million to send back to the state. Estimating that based on the numbers in the Utah Tax Commission property tax system, we'll be looking at $29+ million that we send back the following year. As we look at what we're doing for state revenue.
But there's a local tax increase, so that stays local.
Yeah, correct. Yep, does. Yeah, and in relation to the rates, so when we receive our dollars from the county, we allocate those by whether it's debt service or board levy or local levy or capital based on the rate percentage to the total rate. And so that piece of it, the current property tax piece of it, by raising or lowering rates doesn't really affect the recapture. However, the motor vehicle tax that we get, the redemptions, which is really late taxes, any of those miscellaneous things, greenbelt, anything else that comes through that's unexpected means we hold on to more money if we raise taxes. If we don't raise tax, if we lower the taxes, and I'm talking strictly as a percentage of the total tax in comparison to the basic levy. If the basic levy percentage increases overall of our total tax, then we're going to be sending back more back to the state. Basically, it's kind of how that works. So keeping that in mind. Strategic priorities, I won't go through those, but just again, our operation requests were in line with those that's been set previously. Overall, all funds or total budget $201 million. Keep in mind that includes a lot of construction dollars. Doesn't include all the construction dollars, as we won't spend everything in year 2, but we will spend more in year 2 than in year 1. And so that money is treated as one time, as it's spent, it's not replenished. You'll see that total budget amount come down, over the next couple of years based on that construction money being paid out. But overall, that's through all funds. Our general funds at $134 million, which is about 25 million higher than the prior year. Again, between 7,000 and 8,000 of that is the recapture. The rest is really the compensation package moving forward. The operation requests were a little bit higher than what we generated from your state revenue. That's pretty close to a wash overall, everything considered. So that's the new budget. General expenditures, these are the operation requests. We talked about those. Just put those in the PowerPoint to keep people aware of what those requests were. So you go back and we'll go into detail on those. We've got totals there, and again, the largest part is the compensation. Capital projects fund, of course, is paying for the bonds, so we shared that in the PowerPoint, so you can kind of see what's going on there. Those are really our two major funds: is the capital projects and the general fund. Categorized capital projects, which you've seen before as a board, we'll put that more in, so it's in the big box we'll probably see as far as what's being paid there. Notice at the bottom, we've got the lease payment of the 2.8 million, which is the lease revenue bond coming out of capital. And then, of course, the 1.9 million the board set aside a year ago for construction contingency looking forward. Here's kind of how it breaks down year to year, a little different than the original schedule on the master plan with capital financing of these schools and the construction. So you can, review back to that if you'd like. Our $22 amounts were lower than what we anticipated originally, which also helps us along as well, because there's interest earnings and different things that we can utilize to help with some of the inflationary costs of construction. So that's actually a plus. All right, tax rates, that's the big elephant in the room tonight, probably, is the tax rate. So here's our tax rates. You can see the 2022, 2023 final tax rates. And the 23-24, it says adopted, but they're really proposed. So what would happen this evening during the budget hearing is, if the board supported the increase over the certified tax rate to adopt these rates, then it would push the next meeting to August for an approval, final approval. July is when the county sends out the first property tax notice. The taxpayers comes with the date and the time of the tax hearing and all those things for August. So that's all part of the process, which is why it's pushed to August. You can see that in comparison to the 23 rates, we do have almost 3.5 increments. The overall rates decreasing even with our increases in there. part of that's due to the basic levy, which we're expecting to go down about 2.5 increments. We don't have a final number on the basic levy at this point. The tax commissioner released that as soon as they have all the data calculated. So that's kind of where we're looking at comparison rates. Keeping in mind again, so if my value was the same on my property tax notice this year as it was last year, I'm actually going to see a decrease, even though we're planning to raise that 4 increments over the certified tax rate. Is how you do that. Got a quick calculation based on $100,000 home or business value. If it's residential, it'd be $211, which was the 23 amount. 192 is the 24 amount. I didn't use the million here because a year ago Todd did present 100,000, so I left it at that amount for ease in case the board was used to that. So we're actually, again, because of that 3.4 increment decrease overall, if your value stays the same, we would see a decrease, which is probably unlikely for most taxpayers to see a decrease or to have a full status quo. So this is I think the best chart in the whole thing. So let me explain this. When FY23, the value that went on the truth and taxation notice was $1,094,000. I've increased it 16%, estimating that number will go up. I haven't received that from the county yet. But if a home were to go from $1,094,000 to $1,269,000, it shows the effect tax by tax. Keeping in mind the basic levy, the charter levy, both of those rates are not set by this board. The board is really setting the debt service, the vote of the board, and the capital, those 4 rates. So the ones on the top and the bottom, the state legislature / Utah State Tax Commission are setting. But you can see tax rate by tax rate, what the increase is or what the change is. So if I have a home value that goes up in my primary residence by 16%, I'm going to overall see that $129 increase. We talked on $1 million residence, 1 increment would equal $55. If you remember that discussion, we're planning on going for about 4 increments, so that'd be $210 on that value. So this really depends on where the taxpayer falls as to how it's going to affect each individual taxpayer. We're looking at this on an average. So on an average home that goes from $1,094,000 to $1,269,000, they would see an increase of $129 based on the decisions that are going on within the school district area. So, any questions on this? Okay. And then truth and taxation hearing, that will be held August 15th at 6 p.m., which is a regularly scheduled board meeting in August, or will be after we discuss it today, potentially. And so we'll advertise as such if the board adopts tonight. You do have specific language when we get to the budget adoption. If we could use that specific language, that'd be helpful, just in case assessed values change or growth changes or the basic levy rate changes drastically and affects what we're doing. We need to be able to yield that rather than set a budget overall. So, President, that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew is online to take us through the internet safety review.
Hey, can you guys all hear me okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'll start with just a quick note that security is a constantly moving target that we take very seriously. We're working really hard to continue to improve. There's no done with security. This is the constant work that we're doing. There's no sort of finish line because that finish line keeps moving. And one of the things we are facing is that K-12 education nationwide has been more targeted for security breaches since COVID. So our team here has been working very diligently along with assistance from UEN to make sure we're doing good things for our students and our staff. As far as the policy itself goes, we did not make any substantive changes or to either the policy or to our security posture. Really 2 things that I did shift in the policy as I was going through this. One is just clarifying that we filter for obscene and objectionable material. Previous policy just noted that we filter. So that was, I wanted to bring us in line with some federal language to make sure that was clear. And the other thing that I did do was I removed some specific student consequences for violations of our acceptable use policy, and instead now point to our safe schools policy. That's really where that discipline work needed to be. And a good portion of this policy is required language from Utah, our federal statute. So we're not changing any of our posture, just want to do some clarifications. And lastly, just want to note that over the next year, we're going to continue to iterate and improve our security. Our network team is working really hard to keep ahead of things. We will also intending to do a more thorough review of this policy over the next year, really an eye toward improving clarity. When I was doing some research for this over the last month, I spent a lot of time reading policies from other districts. I think there's some language we can use to help make what we're doing a little more clear. Again, not intending to change our posture, just to help make it more clear for our families and our students what we're doing. In addition, our teaching and learning team will be reviewing the training that we're doing for our students, really looking to make sure we can provide good guidance for our schools and our community councils as we're deciding what's right for our kids. Our teaching and learning team is going to take a look at that and make sure we've got some good guidance for them. That's really what I had today. Just want to be very brief here. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you, Drew.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, Caleb, you want to join us to go grow the treasure?
Thank you. Well, I just want to get an opportunity to share a little bit of what we're doing. It's an opportunity to brag a little bit, but I am a parent of this district. I'm a Park City High School graduate and principal. So thank you, Nick, Meredith, and Wendy. You know, I've had some of your students in my school, but I'm also grateful for what you do for my children. So I appreciate that. And Dr. Jill, thank you for always being available, including at 9-10 p.m. I have to call you. I'm grateful for it. So I wanted to share a little bit of treasure story. Thanks, Tricia, for putting that up for us from F to A. And the story, you can go to the next slide, is in 2017, Treasure Mountain Junior High received an F grade from the State Office of Education for low proficiency and growth on state assessments specifically. And we're really excited that in September of 22, we received an A from the State Office of Education for exceptional student proficiency and growth. And some of the fun things to the story is our students have made substantial academic progress regardless of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we've also been able to buck some national trends and some state trends where you see a regression in proficiency nationwide starting in 6th grade. School gets harder, it's maybe not as fun. We're excited about what we're doing in realignment, so we're going to address some of those issues. And that continues through 9th grade. And we've been able to curb that with the work at Ecker and Treasure to get it to be less and start climbing again in 8th grade. So we're really proud of some of the strategic shifts we made, and we want to share a little bit of that data with you. I'll let you go to the next slide, Tricia. So this grade was actually on 21-22. I do have this year's data, or at least some preliminary data. This is a busy slide, but this is from our ECRIS platform that Dr. Jill implemented, as probably mentioned to you. It's a powerful platform that shows principals and other stakeholders internally a lot of different data, a lot of our proficiency scores. But what I want you to take note of on this side is simply the blue and the green dots. And I'm grateful that they simplify it for administrators as well. Those in ECRIS, what you're looking for is a green dot, and ECRIS gives you growth expectations, and that's what we're really trying to accomplish. We want to make sure students are growing and learning at the level of which they're supposed to be learning. A green dot is what ECRIS uses a lot of impressive algorithms to determine here's what a student should grow in a given year. And green means they met it, which is good, which means a year's worth of input equals a year's worth of output. It's a win. Sometimes we see yellow, and sometimes even worse, we see red, and that's substantially less. But the blue dots are very hard to come by. And that means that these students are growing at a rate higher than expected. That's how you start shrinking achievement gaps. And as you can see, these are our scores from last year. And I'm very proud to say that I'm not aware of any other schools in our district or even our state that had this many blue dots. Again, students achieving above expectations, substantially above expectations. So that is what a large part of what our grade is based on. But the question then is like, how do you continue this? Because I got these scores and I went, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I'm so proud of our team and what they've accomplished. And how can we do this again? Because we hadn't been able to do it yet. If you go to the next slide, I'm excited to report our preliminary data is we're starting to sustain. You'll see the state scores, the district and the school, because we're a 189 school. In this situation, it's our 8th grade scores, because that's what I get back right away, are always the same. So you can just look at the bottom two. This is science, over 22% over the state average. Blue and green are proficient scores. This is the state reporting system, slightly different than ECRIS now. And then the unproficient is orange, and a score of a 1, which means a student has not demonstrated a lot of proficiency, is red. We don't want any red, but one thing I'm really proud of is how much smaller our red scores are compared to the state as well. So not only are proficiency scores much higher, our students that are not demonstrating success are very, very low in all of our scores. So again, this is 22% above the state average in science. Again, when we were in F school, this was in the 30s. You can go to the next slide. Our writing scores that we haven't, they don't do it on proficiency. Last year, we got a 7 out of 10. This year, we got an 8 out of 10. We're not aware of any junior high that achieved higher writing scores than we did this year. The state average is a 6. So 25% above the state average. There, you can go to the next slide. Our math scores, this is where we actually have a goal with our within the state. Our math scores, we had 17% proficiency in math just a few years ago when we were getting a lower score. You can see that we're 12% above the state average. And this does not include all of our students in 8th grade that are taking Algebra 1. They take a different test and they typically achieve very high. So we know that these scores will come in the mid-50s. We've got a goal of 80. And it's a lofty goal, and we're going to continue to strive for it, but we know we're making the right jumps. And again, you can see that our red bar is much smaller in the state. That orange bar, those students are close. They're computing math. They're starting to understand. So we're really excited about that. And last, our English scores increased by 5%. That's the next slide over last year, from 52% proficient to 57% proficient, which is 15% over the state average. Again, we know, and there's 43% of students that we still believe can and deserve our best. So we're not done yet, but we're very excited about our scores in comparison to what we're seeing in the state and the nation. And then maybe the last score that I want to share with you, if this is I had to clip this out of a much bigger spreadsheet, but that's 60.56% is the number of ELL, English language learners or multi-language learners meeting proficiency. This is compared to a state and national, not meeting proficiency, excuse me, meeting their growth goals. It's really hard in 8th and 9th grade for these students to stay motivated in their classes. The nation average and the state average is below 40%. We also had 3 students exit the WIDA program, meaning they demonstrated the level of English proficiency that they're no longer considered a multilingual learner in the traditional form. And what we see in the secondary level is a lot of students stall. They become stuck in WIDA programs. It's a nationwide trend. If we don't get them out early, why Dr. Jill talked about that 5 years, and even though it takes 7 in some situations, we have kids stall. So any student who exit in the secondary level is an incredible accomplishment. We're very proud that 3 students are done, and they've met that. So what were our keys to success? The first thing that we've been focusing on, we have to create a culture that truly cares about each and every child. I'm proud of the teachers, the faculty, staff at Treasure, and they pour into each kid. They focus on building relationships first, because kids can't learn if they're not cared about and they don't have a relationship with the stakeholder. We do focus on standards. So our teachers, we know their standards, they teach their standards as allocated by the state, and they focus on a PLC to dialogue around what those standards are and how they can ensure that all students are getting the information they need. We also have a multilingual cohort, which is very exciting. It's a model that both the high school and Ecker are going to be using moving forward, but it was actually brought on by Bob O'Connor, and we implemented it at Treasure, and it's been highly successful. And you have to have high expectations for all students. And then a little caveat, maybe it's nice to inherit a school that was never really an F school. I'm not actually a huge fan of school grade ratings. Treasure Mountain was a great school before. They were doing many great things. They had many great people involved, and we were able to just make some strategic shifts to continue to grow and flourish on the great work that was being done there at Treasure. But really excited to share what's happening at Treasure and the great things in our districts. Overlook any questions you may have.
Great story.
Exactly what I was thinking. It's a great story. I'm curious, a lot of the earlier numbers you showed compared to the state. Do we have that compared nationally as well?
So our tests, I have a lot of our ACT data. We take a pre-ACT. That is what we have national data on. Unfortunately, we're beating them in similar margins. But the RISE test is a Utah State test. They've never given me that data from the state. I don't know if ECRIS can pull any of that, but on the ACT, which we also use the pre-ACT, we started a few years ago. We do a pre-ACT exam 8 through 11, and then 11th grade, it's actually their test. But Roger and I work strategically to make sure that we're giving the pre-ACT 8, 9 in 8th and 9th grade, and then they take the pre-ACT in 10th and 11th grade. And that data, we're able to look at the state, and it's pretty exciting as well, on our comparative nation countries. But we have incredible communities, but it's where it should be, and hopefully we can continue to go in that direction.
Awesome work.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna skip real quick to educational equity policy 1006, because Ann needs to go on the phone. Go mobile. So we have one policy for adoption. It has been discussed at nauseam. The latest revision incorporates version that Joan, new council had, as well as previous versions, and adds an introductory paragraph with the board policy and purpose. It is listed on board docs in 1006. So I will entertain a motion to approve policy 1006, education equity.
I make a motion to adopt policy.
Second. Okay. Wendy, you're still on, right?
Yep, thanks.
Any discussion, and questions from you first?
No, I just want to say thanks to so many different people who put in the work on this and reviewed it, revised it, and I feel excited about seeing the implementation plan and adopting this tonight. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Wendy said, I'm cognizant of the amount of work that went into this, the effort to listen to so many different viewpoints, and I think the final version reflects a lot of the feedback that we got, and I think it's a good policy, and delighted to approve it this evening.
Meredith.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I do agree with you, especially the citations at the end, really pointing out where that aligns with the state policy
For now,
for now.
as you're well aware.
And the purpose of why we're doing it. Yeah, I agree with all that, and I like how it's been cleaned up and how it really mirrors, it's just like the next step of our, mission, vision, values, and goals that we worked on years ago. It's just reiterating that, and it leaves, the next steps available. So I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone to read it. It's a document that can always be revised. I think it's been very, it's probably the policy that's seen the most attention. Certainly in the last, 7 or 8 years. That's a good thing. People should be paying attention to it. I would encourage everyone to read the final ones being approved, and recognize that it's a continuation of what we do for every student every day. And it's what our educators, in this room and on holiday right now, do, and it's super important. It's one of the biggest policies that we've had. So I'm definitely proud of the work that's gone into this from everyone involved. All right, all those in favor of approving this policy, please say aye. Aye.
Hi.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, I'll call you when we get to budget hearing. It's probably 20 minutes. All right, we go back to 4.04 district realignment.
Hey, well, good evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide an update on the alignment. It's been a long year, trying to find traction on the direction and where we really wanted to head in terms of realignment. Next slide. So future of learning, our mission is to inspire and support all students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. And we believe our mission and vision align and complement
the Future Ready School Framework, which we will leverage that concept as we look to design a system that includes equity of opportunity, which means all students will leave Park City School District prepared to succeed in a democratic society. Competency-based education, which I'm sure is an acronym, CDE, that you've heard thrown around. This is the ability for students to demonstrate their learning in a variety of ways. It's not just a test. They could demonstrate it by hands-on, a project, a variety of ways. Personalized learning, that's where they co-construct their learning experience. So they work in concert with their teacher to construct what their learning experience might look like in a given classroom. Using technology to enhance the education, we want our teachers to implement technology and understand it is a tool. It's not necessarily the tool. So using it appropriately. Authentic assessment, those are assessments that are grounded in real world practices so that we can ensure our students are ready for that next step when they leave our K-12 system. Amplifying learner agency, that provides students voice and choice versus a teacher dictating how they may go about their experience within the classroom. Pathways for all students, you hear about this all the time in CTE, but there's also other pathways for our students who are college bound. They may take a heavier load of AP coursework versus CTE courses. And then at the final one, customized academic and SEL supports. That is where our students receive timely differentiated feedback and support that is unique to them. And it's not to all students, but it's what they need when they need it. Next slide.
Awesome. So starting this year, we used a structure like this to be able to complete this work. And so at the top, we want to recognize that absent from the three of us is Roger or Bobby, who's not here tonight. But the four of us met twice a month around realignment planning in order to continue to take the ideas coming out of the different task forces and move these initiatives forward and the learning forward. And so as we each took our task forces under our wings and started to launch the meetings and the learnings of that group, we really wanted them to be the first learners in the competency-based education world and what was out there as the different offerings. And I would say we had a few false starts in what direction are we going. Sometimes too many possibilities start to breed a little bit of a slowdown. We were slogging through it. And once we found some direction, we really saw our task force lean into the work and get excited about it. Not present here tonight as well as those task force members. And so I want to take a moment just to recognize them by name. In the 6-8 task force, we have Larissa Famouk, Summer Marshall, Zach Giddings, Liz Thompson, Casey Ryan, Andy Coleman, Molly Forrester, and Silas Mullen. And then in the 9-12 task force, we had Melissa Perry, Brett Hughes, Joanna Andrus, Ben Ray, Liz Moskell, Tripp Marshall, Nico Jensen, Inigo Mendiola, Matt Nagel, and Jake Joe. And so those teachers really took the lead on running some input sessions with their colleagues and things like that, but also then provided feedback to us that, again, as we would come together. Coming online next year, I think we thought we would be in a different place right now. We thought we'd be able to launch focus groups this year, but as we learned, it took a little time to kind of figure out that direction. So those focus groups based on some very specific topics will start to come online next year. And our hope is that our task force members will be able to lead those focus groups with some support from us and the other administrators in our buildings. So that's okay.
Your staff focus groups or who?
So those focus groups will be made of students, community members, parents, partnerships that we have, depending on the topic, of course. So right now we're soliciting input, and we did that in May. I'll talk about that in a minute, from just our educators around what kind of questions and thoughts do they already have. And then as we move forward, we'll start to create those groupings appropriate for that topic. So, and maybe even a couple iterations once we know more about those things. So, yeah. Dr. Gilday mentioned the North Star, our portrait of a graduate that the state of Utah really has set out for us, for something for all of us to aspire our children to become as they move through our education system and into adulthood and become productive citizens. So the portrait of a graduate is aligned in 3 areas: mastery, autonomy, and purpose.
There are competencies that have been written for all students K-12 in our Utah education system. The wellness plan that Dr. Simon mentioned earlier, that has been written is actually aligned to the competencies that came through Portrait of a Graduate. So we're really trying to use this as our guiding document to say if we're making decisions about changes in our educational environment, we want to make sure that we are realizing the potential of each student through the Portrait of a Graduate idea.
So we know where we're going with Portrait of a Graduate. We're really excited. If you haven't went through the competencies, it's exciting because who would want their student to be the best version of themselves based on their values and who they are and their strengths and character traits. So the road, how do we get there? What's the path? Well, Utah's also leading the way in what's called PCBL, personalized competency-based learning. And it's a framework where students get to take control of their learning. And we provide them the support they need along the way. So of course, there are going to continue to be highly rigorous classes through AP courses and whatnot, but we're really looking at giving students more voice and more choice in their learning process. And that's the road. And that's what we're excited for schools to look like. And then if there's a road, how do you drive down that road? Well, for our staff, it's going to be through PLCs. We know that our teachers need to focus on learning as our fundamental purpose. They need to cultivate an incredibly collaborative culture, and we need to be in a continuous improvement cycle. And we don't want our PLCs just to be any vehicle. We want to be the Rivian and the Tesla of PLCs. We want our teachers functioning at that level. So we're excited to put a lot of emphasis on it. And everyone who is in a collaborative culture, who is in a continuous improvement cycle, once you get in it, that is the most rewarding and fulfilling place to work. It's the most rewarding and fulfilling place to learn. So we know that our PLCs, which is something that both Ecker, Treasure, and the high school are going to be focusing on next year in an effort to prepare for this journey, are going to be at the forefront. And that's going to be the vehicle. So your choice would be the Tesla. I'm kind of in these days.
So we recognize in order to reimagine the student experience, there's some key shifts that we need to make it, and it can't happen all at once. We emphasize with our teachers that we need to take a small step, we'll normalize that, and we'll continue to move forward this work. So making that jump from school centered to learner centered, currently in most schools, we teach to the average and manage expectations. Well, in order to get to a learner centered where it's truly focused on the students, our students have to receive that timely differentiated support based on their individual needs. So that's the first key shift. And then getting away from the idea that learning happens in school. No, learning can happen in learners, and that can happen anywhere. It can happen through a business partnership. It can happen off campus. It can also happen on campus. Another key shift that learners are compelled to learn in discrete disciplines. We want to empower our students but to make important decisions about their learning experience and aligning their passions to their course choices and their learning experience. And also engaging in self-selected learning. So allowing them to advance versus everyone being on the same page at the same time. Well, if they're at a different level, then they may advance based on the mastery that they have demonstrated with their teacher.
So one of the things that we kept at the forefront of our work is to make sure we are in alignment with the strategic plan for the Park City School District. And so you'll see the 5 pillars on the left. And then we wanted to align our work and what that looks like in our realignment planning and implementation. So under academic excellence, as Lindsay just mentioned, we want to focus on culture of learning. We really want to put that at the center of everything we're doing. As far as our excellent personnel, as Caleb mentioned, really leaning back into the work of our PLCs and deepening that work around some common expectations. I think the biggest movement that I've seen in conversations with our staff is that, wait, everybody's doing this? Yes, everybody's doing this. And the power of we has really started to take hold in our schools. I think our teachers are craving working together, coming back to leadership, being able to hear those things and take actions in our own buildings, but then collectively too, to make sure that our entire educational community is in alignment. We always want to make sure that our communication is transparent. After every meeting, we send out what happened in our meetings to our respective staff. We actually time our emails to our focus groups to be the same. So we're really intentional about being transparent about what's going on. And then also what metrics are we trying to reach for as a success criteria. So I think coming online after this meeting, of course, is what does the communication plan look like as we start to roll into year 2 of our task forces, and to Meredith's point, that the focus groups that we're going to start creating, and how do we get more involvement there. And then lastly, of course, is, if we really want to redesign the learning experiences of our students, is how do we continue to further develop the partnerships we have in our awesome community and the businesses that already exist here, and how can we attract more partnerships if there's opportunities there for our students.
An exciting note is we did receive a grant to help us with this work. The State Board of Education put together a PCPL grant, and fortunately Lindsay led the efforts in us getting that.
And so it
grant.
was submitted on time.
Yes, very appreciative of that, because grant writing is.
You need that first.
Use that first. Lindsay is that first. We received $50,000 for next year. It will help us provide professional learning opportunities, site visits, and opportunities to partner with experts specific to helping our staff better understand PCPL and how to implement this school-wide in each our 6, 8 acre and 10, 9, 12. Park City High School, there's a high potential that will be expanded for 3 additional years. So it's nice that we're able to take the burden off of the taxpayers for some of this learning and receive some funding from the state. And that expansion is actually likely for $100,000 the 3 years after, because this is the planning year and then we move into implementation. So we're grateful for that grant and excited for the learning that's going to come with it.
Yeah, and as mentioned, the professional learning that we've dialed in on is continuing to solicit that input from our educators. Where are they? As they looked at the framework, we had that one of our learning opportunities this year. And then based on their input, where do we start the implementation planning for PCBL? Creating those focus groups, as we've mentioned, some of the topics could be course pathways, bell schedules, student supports that are needed, et cetera, et cetera. Creating those opportunities, again, to continue to learn through the new framework, and then there's a benefit to being cohort E. I didn't want to make that a downside of being the 5th cohort for this PCPL planning grant, because there's been A through D that's implemented, right? So we can use those other school sites within the state of Utah to really learn from their successes and start at a different place than maybe somebody who's in cohort A, right? So, and then finally, looking at student impact, the learning impact, using some of these new innovative instructional strategies. Speaking back to the cycles of inquiry, I had groups of teachers already start to compare if we give students voice and choice and the ability to self-pace their units of instruction in different courses at ECHR. What did it look like in the more traditional environment? And was there a difference in the achievement scores for students? And so our teachers are naturally curious, how does this work? Is it working for students? Some of the anecdotal data that's coming out of it is really fascinating, but looking at the numbers that'll start to come out as we do this implementation will be really fun. So I think we've got the right pieces in place to be able to do that analysis of impact.
All right, our future, winter was rough, if you didn't notice. But since then, construction is humming along and it's fun to watch footings get poured and structures go up and see the progress that has been made. So actually seeing the design come to reality. So once realignment is complete, we hope to implement it school year 25-26. That will allow us to have a 4-year comprehensive high school. 9th grade will go to the high school, 8th grade will move down to ECHR. That will also allow us to offer 250 plus courses and multiple pathways in a 4-year comprehensive high school. We'll be able to reduce our transitions for students from 4 to 3. We'll also be able to redesign the middle grades experience, and that can look vastly different for a variety of reasons. Do they need to have the music requirement? How do we make sure our DLI kids also get coding and access the various pathways? So that's something we will look at and not limit our 6th and 7th grade students to a specific schedule based on their choices. And then also really allowing students to drive their learning and have voice and choice at the end of this realignment process. So to close, this team believes that the most equitable, inclusive, and personalized education is on the opposite side of realignment. And it'd be a huge miss for us if we viewed realignment as just a facility change, moving students from one building to another. And this team I know is fully committed to capitalizing on realignment to provide the best education for all students who are part of Park City. And with that, we will open the floor up for questions.
I don't think I have a question, but a comment or a yay. Great work. I went down to visit Mountain Technical College, and they'll be breaking ground in September in Heber, and building their own campus. And I think it's really exciting to have that as another resource for our students, if they look at different ways that they want to learn what they experience school, and just adding that as a bonus for our kids.
It's been a long time coming. Currently, we bus kids to Heber to access the automotive program. But then we have a handful that go to the Wasatch West campus to do electrician and some other courses. So having that facility here at the Wasatch back versus them having to drive to Thanksgiving Point is going to be a huge benefit because it's essentially free while they're in high school.
Right. And they definitely were talking about healthcare
Yes,
programs. That
yeah.
they offer here, so fabulous opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think you guys have gone above and beyond. It's definitely, I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of hours on this, and it's, yeah, thank you. Because it's true. I mean, the buildings are meaningless without what's inside them, and that's always been the case, but I think you guys embodied that, so thank you all for spending your time on it. It's good. Thank you.
The heavy lifting starts next year. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's when it gets tough.
Yeah.
But, thank you for doing all the prep work, because it's essential, and it helps make the taxpayers' investment worthwhile in the buildings. Without this, it would be, just kind of a waste of money, so. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is 5.1, Board of Education meeting dates. There's a calendar posted on board docs. It's pretty standard. I'll entertain a motion to approve the board calendar for next year, and then we have some discussion.
Make a motion to approve the calendar.
Okay. All right, perfect. Any questions or known conflicts on these dates? This is so we can post, we have it now and we'll post them automatically as it goes, but obviously, what we've done in the past is if these two people know they can't make it or can't remote in, we'll try to change it. So we're guaranteed to have a corner if somebody gets sick or can't make it. So just keep that in mind, but like once you know there's non-negotiable travel for whatever reason, just make us aware so we can adjust the dates, but otherwise, I don't see any issues. Wendy, any issues on this?
No, this is great. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of adopting the calendar for next year, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's 4 yeses. All right, next up is policies for posting. 5 policies for posting. I'll entertain a motion to post policy 2020 student clubs, policy 7085 employee and licensed staff, policy 7100 professional staff transfers, policy 9110 acceptable use policy, and policy 10107 head injuries.
I make a motion to post the policies as stated.
Perfect. All right, any discussion on these 5 policies? All right, all those in
I'm opposed to
favor?
head injuries. I
Yeah.
want to be on the record. Do not support head injuries.
I think the acceptable use policy was addressed by Drew earlier, so you have some background on that one. All right, all those in favor of posting these 5 policies, please say aye. Aye. Okay,
Aye.
perfect. All right, now we have time for public comment on our regular meeting. Does anyone have public comment for the meeting? Yeah. When you're done, can you just fill out one of these blue forms with your name? So it's on the record? Perfect.
Chris Campbell, I've got two kids, one in Eckerd, one in Jeremy. I was coming here, I was gonna ask you about the after-school childcare stuff, and then realized you guys were already on top of that. So I want to say thank you for doing what you needed. The last meeting as far as raising wages and things like that, so we can hopefully clear the wait lists for those programs. I think that's a huge example of putting equity policy stuff into practice. And I appreciate.
Yes.
Yes, thank you guys for supporting that. And thank you for working through the equity policy process and taking the time to do that. I think we're getting up, I think everybody's pretty proud of where we ended up. And then I realized with the grade realignment way back in 2017, 2018, there was talk about school start times and adjusting the school start times might be a controversial topic. And, you know, there's maybe some opportunities for some doing that again. And whether or not there's some creative things, I know traffic patterns and things like that, all that has kind of shifted since then. But back then, part of it was put off until we do the alignment process. So I bring that up. My gut, I think we'll be going on the current timeline, we'll be going into ninth grade. It's not trying to advocate now, but for when we get some good sleep at them. So we can consider looking at that.
The team has that on their, you know, that realignment team and talked about that for next year and, you know, routing and all that. But the other thing to remember is that when the kids currently anyway, when they're in that junior high school age, you can't do a parent release based on the number of credits that need to graduate versus like opportunities available.
Right.
So we do have about 30% of the kids take advantage of that in the first period. Some kids do the last period of the athletic activity.
Right, yeah, so those are the kinds of creative things that we can find, because I know that was one of the concerns was elementary school starting too early, getting in the dark. But you know, there's other things we need to consider as far as traffic and how that all shaped.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we looked at it, the biggest barriers were the traffic pattern on cones. In that if we started, so the city did a traffic study, looking at the current corridor, and if we'd started an hour later, I think the kids on average would get like another 15 minutes of sleep because of the amount of traffic, only during ski season, but you know, I guess it's whatever, 3 or 4 months. So, but during ski season, it was something like an hour later start and had to leave 45 minutes earlier on the bus to make it. And so that was issue one. And then the second issue was athletics, was that none of the other schools were willing, that were in our districts, were willing to move. Although we moved some districts to athletics so many times since then that it may make sense to start that conversation again, because I think if everyone agreed, then that would, you know, especially for the high school, that would help ease that path.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up, because
Yeah.
you know, things might change, but.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in and sharing your thoughts. All right. So we will, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this regularly scheduled meeting until our next meeting, which is August 15th at 4 p.m. And then we will quickly reopen in a budget hearing after this.
And a motion to adjourn as stated.
Okay,
So,
perfect. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Perfect. Meeting is adjourned. Now we will declare the public hearing on the final budget for fiscal year 22-23 open. So we have to approve the final budget for 22-23, and then we have to approve the tentative budget for 23-24. So there's two separate items. I'll now open the floor for public comment on the final budget for fiscal year 22-23, if there is any. Okay, I will declare the public hearing on the final budget for the fiscal year of 22-23 closed. I'll entertain a motion to approve the final budget for fiscal year 22-23 as amended.
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Perfect. Do we have any discussion on the final budget of fiscal year 22-23? Okay, all those in favor of approving the budget for 22-23, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Now I will declare the public hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal year 23-24 open. Do we have any public comment on the fiscal year 23-24 tentative budget? All right, I will declare the public hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal year 23-24 closed. I'll entertain a motion to approve the tentative budget for the fiscal year 23-24 with a recommended tax rate of spot 002063. This recommended rate does not include the basic levy or the charter levy, which are both finalized by the Utah State Tax Commission at a later date. If the certified tax rate is adjusted, the Board of Education reserves the right to adjust the final tax rate to yield the tax dollars currently proposed in the budget as presented. The recommended tax rate will be finalized at a truth and taxation hearing scheduled for August 15th at 6 p.m.
Motion to approve this.
Thank you. Second. Perfect. Do we have any discussion on the motion to approve the budget for 23-24?
No.
All those in favor of approving the 23-24 tentative budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that is approved. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the budget hearing. Sure, yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the budget.
Perfect. Second.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Bye.
It's my kind of budget you're gonna.